Tell Me Everything is the mesmerizing story of a landmark sexual assault investigation and the female private investigator who helped crack it open. Let's welcome Erika.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Electra. Thank you, the whole library staff. Thank you all for being here. When I lived here, the Netherlands Library was it was a room by the BNF. Do you guys remember that? Some of you? Yeah. So this is way better, needless to say. So I'm going to be reading from my book, Tell Me Everything, the Story of a Private Investigation. And it's a story about, so back in the day, Title IX did not apply to sexual assault. And this is the first Title IX sexual assault case in history. Happened right here in Colorado, for those of you who remember. And I worked as a PI on the case. It's my first big case, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I'll start with the beginning. It's called The Face. This is the first chapter. I became a private investigator because of my face. It's an ordinary-looking face, but if I ask, "How are you?" sometimes people start crying. "I'm getting a divorce," they say. "He ended our marriage by text." Or, "I was just diagnosed with late-stage Lyme disease." Or a man grips a packet of peas in the frozen food aisle and asks, "How do you cook these?" "My wife died last month." Or an immaculately dressed woman suddenly tells me, "I hate my job so much I want to kill myself. I've been saving up Ambiens." Then we sit on a concrete curb, or stand in line at a train station, or clutch clear plastic cups at a party as the near stranger in front of me dabs away mascara with a cocktail napkin and dumps out her mind like it's her purse, like I'm the one who can sift through the dust and use tissues to find what she's looking for. Demographics don't seem to matter. Young, old, women, men, non-binary, gay, straight, rich, poor, east, west, everyone tells me things. A woman with 26 grandchildren and 15 great-grandchildren whispered to me at her 101st birthday party that she wished she never had kids, that she'd wasted her life on all these people. After I volunteered at an elementary school, a 6-year-old followed me all the way to the bathroom to tell me in Spanish that her daddy's not going to come home anymore. Even as a kid, I was a storage locker for people's secrets. Grown-ups confessed their affairs, lost fetuses, traumas. When I was 7, my maternal grandmother told me her husband chased her with a knife. One of my elementary school teachers told me he was leaving his wife because she hoarded pizza boxes and dead bugs. When I was 14, my mother's friend yanked me aside and said, "I just want to say your mother is a bitch. You know she's a bitch, right?" When I was 17, my abuser, blurted that he had denied a promotion to a friend at work because he was black. This wasn't intimacy. We hated each other. I thought that was just how other people were, confessing things all the time, that everyone experienced these constant revelations from both kin and strangers. Except people would always say, "I don't know why I'm telling you this," or "I've never told this to anyone before." Nobody told my older sister or younger brother these things, even though we looked similar. So it must be me, something I was doing, right or wrong, or neither. Something in my face bore the shape of a key or a steel table on which to lay something heavy. "Where do I know you from?" strangers asked brightly. One surreal morning on a springtime park bench, 3 strangers in a row insisted they knew me as each sat down in turn. "Do you work at the library? Do you know Pat? Do you eat at Dots?" I said, "No, I just have a familiar face. This happens to me all the time." One woman said, "With that face, you must have a tough time even going outside without people bugging you." Does a familiar face imply a forgettable one? One ex-boyfriend forgot my name. "This is," he said, actually snapping his fingers, trying to introduce me to his new girlfriend. Another ex-boyfriend remembered my name, but forgot we had been together for a year. What's it like to date you, I wonder?" He flirted over the phone until I reminded him who he did date not too long ago. And he had sort of kind of proposed to me amid a wash of emotion he felt after a screening of Moulin Rouge. But how could I get mad at him? Nobody remembers a mirror. When I was 13, my family moved to Japan for 4 years. The first year, nobody seemed to understand anything I said. No, they said, waving their hands in front of their faces. "No speak English." "But I'm speaking in Japanese," I said in Japanese, and they stared blankly at my casual body, my oddness. At one point, without realizing it, my gestures morphed from American to Japanese ones. I covered my teeth when I smiled, nodded in short bows, kept my fingers pressed tightly together, pinned my elbows to my sides. My Japanese hadn't improved much, but people now called me fluent, peta peta. They would talk and talk and talk to me way beyond my capacity to comprehend the language. They insisted I was half Japanese, hafu desu. My mimicry was getting me adopted. Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer, even if you have to become just like them. As a child, whenever I had to take car trips with X, it was safer to sit directly behind him because he couldn't hit me without having to pull over and haul me out. Sitting there, I felt like his lesser shadow. I couldn't read a book because it made me carsick, so I spent the time memorizing the back of the head I hated most. If the car came to a sudden stop, I pitched forward until I could smell the dead skin stench of his hair, terrified I might somehow merge right into his body. Imitation isn't flattery, it's protection. There's a class of animals called mimics who pretend to be other kinds of animals to avoid becoming the delicious prey they indeed are. The powdery gray owl butterfly bears a convincing owl-eye spot on each wing, guarding it from bird attack. The harmless milk snake imitates venomous copperheads and coral snakes with bright red-orange bands to warn off predators. Their lies are their hides. Tear a mimic free from her disguise, and you'll find only inner flesh, viscera, a heart emptying its last blood into the dirt. She will die and be eaten, unless she learns how to rip off your disguise first. One more time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Get the cane if I'm In the fall of 2002, I was living in the Front Range foothills of the Colorado Rocky Mountains in a small city that hosted a university and a swarm of tech startups. Where could that be? I don't know. I met an attorney at a bookstore there because we were both reaching for the same Paul Auster novel. We withdrew, laughed, chatted briefly about the author and books, and then he started telling me about his life. He wasn't complaining, just reporting. He said, "I'm a partner in the kind of law firm I've always dreamed of, but I'm beginning to hate it." The man looked like a lawyer. He was about 20 years older than me, my height, in a cornflower blue button-down shirt that matched his eyes so exactly he must have bought it for that purpose. But his hunched shoulders betrayed misery, and his arms flapped at his sides like he had no use for them anymore, but didn't know how to shed them. The man said, "Or maybe I'm just sick of it. My job, my life. I don't know if what I'm doing has any meaning anymore. I'm thinking about leaving my law firm, maybe even leaving the practice of law altogether." Then he stopped, shocked. He said, "Wait, what?" "I've never told anybody this stuff," he said. "It's okay," I said. But he scanned the stacks, unable to meet my gaze, and his voice cracked. He said, "What did you do? What's happening?" I said, "Don't worry, people tell me secrets all the time." I don't even know who you are." He jabbed an index finger in the air between us. He said, "My partners can't know. This is confidential stuff." "I won't tell anyone." He still looked upset, so I said, "It's not you, it's just my face. It does that. People tell me things. I'm sorry." "People tell you things like this?" The man's expression slowly changed as he regarded me, as if I had suddenly gone on clearance. Then he said, "Come work for me." "What?" "I'm offering you a job." He now looked relaxed and expansive. He leaned back against the books in the B section. "What kind of job?" I asked. I was afraid he was about to say something dirty. But instead he said, "You can investigate my lawsuits for me, PI work, talk to witnesses, get them to open up." The idea was amazing, getting paid money for what usually ended up happening anyway. The man told me his name, Grayson. He said, "If you got that stuff out of me, you can get anything out of anyone." Then he named a generous hourly rate, 5 times what I was earning as a temp for a pharmaceutical company. At that point in my life, I was destitute, despite the fact that I had made it. I was a 33-year-old fiction writer. The year before I met this man, I'd had a short story published in The New Yorker. My collection of stories had come out with a major New York publisher. My book won a prize Toni Morrison had won 10 years before. Wasn't it supposed to get easier once you got published? Instead, I was already forgotten and even more broke than before. I felt cheated by my own fantasies. My apartment was the size and shape of a one-car garage, chalky white and garden basement level. There was no garden, nor air conditioning, nor a thermostat. I ate cheap food, which gave me daily stomach cramps. My bed was a nearly clean mattress. My bed was a nearly clean mattress I had found leaning against a dumpster, which is a really weird thing to cheer, actually. I was living with my decision to forego some safe, progressively lucrative career in exchange for any writing time I could snatch. I'd been temping for 2 years. That week I was doing data entry and wearing a white name tag that said temp, although sometimes people called me the new Linda. It was an upgrade. It was an upgrade from my last temp job. It happened to you too. Yeah. It was an upgrade from my last temp job 2 weeks before as a receptionist at a large medical practice where they refused to give me a chair because they couldn't spare one from their crowded waiting room. I had to stand for 8 hours a day, crouched over their black 18-line phone to transfer calls, and my back and ego still hurt from it. I'm gonna skip this. Okay, I kept a running list of all. I'm almost done.
No, I
Okay.
blacked out. That's
I kept a running list of all the jobs I wanted to hold in my lifetime, but never believed I could. Private investigator was number 2, right after writer, and before about 17 other jobs that included composer, food critic, and for some reason, cobbler. Crime excited me in the abstract. I wanted to be a PI ever since I read my first Dashiell Hammett book. I wanted to help people and find things out, not necessarily in that order. I wanted to be the one who could walk into a room and know what happened there. Even if I hadn't wanted the job, I would have taken it anyway. I was used to accepting any employment offered regardless how I felt about it. Lie to creditors? Sure. Lie about our money-back guarantee? Sure. Lie about the doctor's nooner whereabouts to his wife as she jiggles a screaming toddler covered in chickenpox? Sure. Absolutely. You bet. So I didn't even ask this lawyer about the cases or what I'd have to do to extract the confessions he was talking about. It didn't matter. He wanted me, so I would take the job. But this Grayson person seemed like a nice guy, so I had to say, I have to make this clear. I don't have any experience as a private investigator. Grayson grinned. Perfect, he said.